Corpus Christi stands out as one of the most fascinating festivals in the Christian tradition. Perhaps due to its complexity, not all denominations observe it. Despite its celebration over generations spanning thousands of years, its true origins and meaning remain obscure to many. The story of Corpus Christi is often misrepresented and misunderstood, even among Christians who struggle to grasp its full significance. However, we will uncover the truth together. Without further ado, let's begin the story. The narrative begins in 1263. At that time, Europe was a patchwork of fervent beliefs and intense religious practices. Within this context, a priest from Padua, a city in northern Italy, was undergoing a severe crisis of faith. This priest, named Peter, harbored doubts about the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist, a dilemma that deeply troubled his soul. Determined to find answers and strengthen his faith, Peter decided to embark on a pilgrimage to Rome, the Eternal City. In those days, many believers journeyed to the tombs of the apostles St. Peter and St. Paul in Rome, seeking to deepen their faith and receive divine graces. Thus, Peter set off from Padua, traversing various regions on his spiritual quest. Along the way, he chose to stop in the town of Bolsena. Bolsena was renowned for its devotion to Saint Christina, a virgin and martyr from the 3rd or 4th century. The town, with its vast and beautiful lake, was steeped in religious history and fervent faith. Saint Christina was known as the Saint of Misfortunes, due to the numerous martyrdom attempts she endured for her faith. Born into a pagan family, Saint Christina converted to Christianity at a young age, despite her parents' objections. Her fervent devotion to the Christian faith incited the wrath of her father, a prominent figure in Bolsena. Determined to force her to renounce her faith, her father subjected her to a series of tortures and attempts on her life. However, according to tradition, all attempts to kill her failed due to miraculous interventions. Ultimately, he resolved to tie a heavy stone to Christina's body and cast her into Lake Bolsena, believing this would finally end her life. Yet a miracle occurred. Instead of sinking, the stone to which Saint Christina was bound miraculously floated on the water's surface, supporting her and preventing her from drowning. If you're curious to discover what happens next, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and continue watching the video. As the stone floated, Saint Christina remained atop it, protected by divine intervention. This astonishing and miraculous event demonstrated God's protection over Saint Christina amid her trials. Additionally, as Saint Christina floated on the stone, her footprints remained imprinted on it. These footprints have been preserved over the centuries as a symbol of Saint Christina's presence and the divine intervention that saved her from certain death. Saint Christina's footprints on the stone became an object of veneration and devotion for local Christians and pilgrims who visited Bolsena seeking healing, protection, and spiritual guidance. This miraculous event caused Christina's father, upon witnessing the prodigy, to suffer a collapse and die. Though Christina survived multiple attempts on her life, she continued to face ongoing persecution. Each time, divine interventions miraculously saved her until her eventual death. The devotion to Saint Christina in Bolsena was profound, and many pilgrims visited her tomb seeking blessings. It was within this atmosphere of religious fervor that the priest Peter decided to celebrate a Mass, asking for Saint Christina's intercession to reinforce his faith in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. During the Mass celebrated by Father Peter in Bolsena, something truly extraordinary occurred. As Peter, still grappling with his crisis of faith regarding the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, lifted the consecrated host during the moment of consecration, the host began to bleed. Blood flowed from the host, staining his hands and the corporal, a square cloth placed on the altar. This miraculous event astonished not only Peter but also the congregation, who witnessed the miracle with awe and reverence. Overwhelmed by a mix of emotions, astonishment, spiritual relief, and joy, Father Peter was unable to continue the Mass. He carefully placed the bleeding host on the corporal and, with tears of joy and renewed devotion, headed to the sacristy. As he moved, drops of blood fell on the floor and the steps of the altar, leaving indelible marks that would be preserved as sacred relics. News of the miracle quickly spread throughout the church, and other priests came to verify what had happened. They were all deeply impressed by the visible evidence of the miracle, the blood-stained corporal and the bloodied stones. Filled with gratitude and still in shock, Father Peter decided to take the blood-stained corporal and report the miracle directly to Pope Urban IV, who was in the nearby town of Orvieto. Upon arriving in Orvieto, Peter recounted the event in detail to the Pope. The Pope, deeply moved by the account, recognized the miracle as a divine sign of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. He recalled the vision received by Saint Juliana of Liège, who had identified the need for a specific feast to celebrate the Eucharist. It's worth pausing here to delve into this beautiful and intriguing story in more detail. Saint Juliana of Liège played a crucial role in the origin of the feast of Corpus Christi. In the early 13th century, Juliana, a young nun of 16, began experiencing mystical visions revealing the need for a special celebration dedicated to the Eucharist. In one of these visions, she saw a bright white disk with a dark spot on one side. This image intrigued her deeply, and she spent many years in prayer seeking to understand its meaning. After a period of spiritual discernment, Juliana finally understood that the white disk represented the Church and its devotion to the Eucharist, while the dark spot symbolized the absence of a specific feast that adequately honored the Blessed Sacrament. Although Holy Thursday commemorated the institution of the Eucharist, Juliana's vision indicated the need for an additional celebration solely focused on the Eucharist itself. This feast was also associated with the sorrow of Christ's Passion. Juliana realized that Jesus desired a joyful and solemn feast dedicated exclusively to the glory of the Eucharist. Reluctant to reveal her visions, Juliana hesitated for 20 years until she finally found the courage to share her experience with a trusted priest named Jacques Pantaleon. He firmly believed in the authenticity of Juliana's visions and encouraged her to spread her message. However, time passed, and Juliana eventually died with her visions falling into obscurity. Years later, Jacques Pantaleon, the only person who knew about Juliana's visions, became Pope Urban IV. Upon hearing Father Peter's account, Pope Urban IV was deeply moved and immediately recognized the significance of the miracle. With keen spiritual intuition and the memory of Saint Juliana of Liège's vision, which had foreseen the need for a feast dedicated to the Eucharist, the Pope understood that this miracle was a divine sign. He decided to act swiftly to confirm the authenticity of the event and initiate the spread of the miracle and the establishment of a new liturgical feast. To verify the veracity of the miracle, Pope Urban IV convened a group of trusted theologians and experts, including the renowned St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure. These men, known for their wisdom and holiness, were sent to Bolsena to investigate the occurrence and examine the relics. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Bonaventure, and other theologians conducted a thorough analysis of the evidence. They studied the blood-stained corporal, the bloodied stones, and collected testimonies from the faithful who witnessed the miracle. Once the authenticity of the miracle was confirmed, the committee of theologians organized the return to Orvieto, bringing with them the precious relics, including the blood-stained corporal. The news of the miracle had already begun to spread, and as the committee left Bolsena, many local faithful, filled with emotion and reverence, started to follow them. This crowd continued to grow as they advanced, with people from various nearby villages and towns joining the procession. As the procession neared Orvieto, Pope Urban IV, informed of the successful verification and the approach of the miraculous relics, decided to go out to meet them. Accompanied by clergy and church dignitaries, the Pope descended from his ceremonial vehicle as they approached the bridge where the theologians and the procession of faithful were arriving. When the procession reached the bridge, it was a moment of great solemnity and emotion. Pope Urban IV, wearing his pontifical vestments, knelt in adoration before the Eucharist represented by the miraculous relics. He reverently received the blood-stained corporal and the consecrated host, and together with the procession, began walking towards the city of Orvieto. This event marked the first Eucharistic procession, which would become a central element in the celebration of Corpus Christi. Convinced by the theologian's verification and the profound spiritual significance of the event, Pope Urban IV decided to establish a solemn feast to honor the Eucharist. In 1264, he issued the bull Transiturus, decreeing the creation of the Feast of Corpus Christi. The bull emphasized the need to reaffirm faith in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, especially during a time when various heresies were questioning this doctrine. The Pope saw the feast as a means to strengthen the faith of the faithful and promote Eucharistic devotion. He also highlighted the role of Eucharistic miracles, such as the one at Bolsena, as divine signs confirming the truth of Christ's presence in the consecrated bread and wine. Following the decree of the feast, Pope Urban IV took steps to ensure that the new celebration would be marked by a rich and deeply spiritual liturgy. Understanding the importance of an appropriate rite that captured the essence and glory of the Eucharist, the Pope called upon some of the most renowned theologians of his time to compose the hymns and prayers to be used in the solemnity. Among the theologians summoned were St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure, both intellectual and spiritual giants of the 13th century. When the time came to unveil the hymns, all the theologians gathered in the presence of the Pope. St. Thomas Aquinas, known for his profound scholarship and spirituality, was the first to present his composition. St. Thomas began to recite his hymn, Lauda Sion. This hymn, through richly crafted verses, expresses the belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the reverence due to this sacrament. St. Thomas's performance was so marvelous and inspiring that all the other theologians present remained silent, deeply moved by the perfection and spirituality of his words. With great humility and recognition of the superiority of St. Thomas's work, each of them tore up their own manuscripts, acknowledging that St. Thomas's hymn perfectly captured the spirit and purpose of the new feast. Thus, Lauda Sion became the official hymn of the Feast of Corpus Christi. This event not only highlighted the extraordinary theological and poetic skill of St. Thomas Aquinas, but also underscored the unity and humility among the greatest theologians of the Church in recognizing the most suitable work to glorify the Eucharist. The first celebration of the Feast of Corpus Christi, instituted by Pope Urban IV, marked a moment of profound devotion and joy in the Church. The festivity was meticulously planned to emphasize the importance of the Eucharist and reinforce faith in the real presence of Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. The inaugural celebration of Corpus Christi featured a solemn Eucharistic procession, an event that would become a central tradition of the feast. During this procession, the Blessed Sacrament was carried through the streets in a monstrance, allowing the faithful to worship and honor the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. The city of Orvieto, where Pope Urban IV was temporarily residing, became the epicenter of this celebration. The importance of Orvieto in the history of Corpus Christi was highlighted by the construction of a magnificent cathedral designed to house and preserve the blood-stained corporal, the main relic of the Bolsena miracle. The Cathedral of Orvieto, known as the Duomo di Orvieto, began construction in 1290, a few years after the institution of the feast. This cathedral is a masterpiece of Italian Gothic architecture, boasting a richly decorated facade and impressive interiors. The first celebration of Corpus Christi and the construction of the Cathedral of Orvieto are intertwined events that established a lasting legacy of Eucharistic devotion. They commemorate the Bolsena miracle and the vision of St. Juliana of Liège, continuing to inspire and strengthen the faith of many Christians by reaffirming the centrality of the Eucharist in the life of the Church and the spirituality of the faithful. It is worth noting that some religious groups may choose not to believe in or observe the Corpus Christi holiday for various reasons. Some have their own beliefs and religious practices that do not include the celebration of the Eucharist, or they may prefer not to venerate the host and wine as the body and blood of Christ. Additionally, there may be theological and interpretative differences regarding the nature of the Eucharist and its scriptural foundations. However, it is important to remember that regardless of religious differences, the core issue is having faith in God and practicing principles of love, compassion, and mutual respect. Respect for religious diversity and the pursuit of peace and understanding among different traditions are values that transcend religious boundaries and are fundamental to building a more tolerant and inclusive world. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel, click the bell to activate notifications, leave a like, and click on one of the 2 videos that will appear to continue watching. Best regards and God bless.